Hey everybody, so it is time for me to wrap up my June reading. I know I'm a little late, but I'll tell you why in just a minute. But I will say I have read some fantastic books in June and I cannot wait to share them with you. So we better get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you all doing today? As always, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, and of course I hope you're reading an amazing book or two or three or four. It is warm here in Northern California. I am home from vacation, and as I may have said, we brought our two nephews, 6 and 13, home with us. So our house is not used to this much action. All the more power and praise to those of you who raise children 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But we have been doing that. It's fantastic. We love having them here, but we have been very, very busy. But I have to say, my June reading was fantastic. It was a little bit slow to start, mainly because I was trying to wrap up before I went on vacation, and you know how that is at work, right? But once I was on vacation, I was able to get through some books and read some really amazing titles that I cannot wait to tell you all about. So get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads, get out however you keep track of your TBR. If you are so able, order these books from your local independent bookstore or have your library get you a copy as soon as possible. That was an interesting pause, but my brain for a minute was like, what are you supposed to say next? There you go. The first book that I want to tell you about is a queer political fantasy novel, and that is A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Meadows. I have never heard of this author until I read this book, know very little about them, but I absolutely enjoyed this novel. So let's just sort of set the premise. So basically we're in a land with a bunch of kingdoms. Our main character is called home by his father, who is like a regent or a man of power. He is over a certain part of this the land in this one kingdom, and it is announced to him that he is actually going to be married, and he's going to be married to a woman from sort of a neighboring rival that came out as naval, so you know, country. However, our main character is gay, and on sort of the day everything's supposed to happen, an event occurs, which I'm not going to give it away, that he winds up being forced out of the closet. Well, in the land that he is going to, queer people exist, and they are not thought of the same way in his homeland. So there they sort of, they have options for him, and instead of marrying the woman from the neighboring kingdom, they offer the son. And it turns into this arranged marriage between the two of them. Now, he winds up traveling this long travel there. He is going to go and do his duty. His father basically disowns him. He gets there, and then it's like this big political intrigue happens. Someone is murdering people or sort of causing different things to happen in the name of the prince that our main character is supposed to be married, and it gets really convoluted and they're sort of thrown together. I don't know how to explain it. I'm doing a very bad job, but it is like this, you know, it's like a queer romance. Two people thrown together. Are they going to like each other? Are they not going to like each other? All of that yummy, fun stuff. But it's a really good political thriller about the intrigue between these two countries. There's a little bit of a trigger warning for sexual abuse, but the author handles that very, very well. It deals with depression. It deals with sort of self-worth. It deals with, you know, needing to understand you are more than the things that are done to you, if that makes sense. But in the backdrop is this fantastic world and these people and all of this stuff going on. I really loved it. I don't know that I've done a fantastic job selling it, but I really think if you like Jacqueline Carey, if you like, what is the one that I read? Oh, I can't remember. But books like that are just like, they're set in a fantasy world, but they're really just a political drama with a twist of a queer romance. That's A Strange and Stubborn Endurance by Meadows. Yeah, I really love that book. Okay, The Spilling Tea Book Club, which is reading novellas this year, read We the Animals by Justin Torres. And We the Animals came out in 2011. I read it in 2011 because it was raved about by Anne Kingman of the Old Books on the Nightstand podcast. And I have to tell you, it lived up 100% in rereading. So this is the story of a very, very poor family with 3 boys, and sort of the dynamic of this family. The father, the mother. The mother is very young. I think she gets pregnant with the first boy when she's 14. The father is not much older than that. They wind up actually going, I believe they drive all the way to like Texas or something in order to get married. And they're raising their family, and there's money problems, working problems, but it's the story of this family and these boys raised together. Now, this is sort of semi-autobiographical, and one of the characters is queer, and he's coming to terms with that throughout the book in a very subtle and nuanced way. The writing is beautiful. The dynamic is one. You really are like cheering on these parents because they're not bad parents. They really are trying, but there is a lot of stuff in the world against them that is making it very, very difficult for them to be successful. So, We the Animals by Justin Torres. If you haven't read it, you absolutely should. It is an excellent audiobook as well. So there you go. Highly recommend. Okay, the next book I read, I tried to read a bunch of stuff because June is Pride Month. I wanted to make sure that I read some queer literature and represented that in this wrap-up. And so I picked up The Kingdom of Sand by Andrew Holleran, and this is out from FSG, and I think it came out in June as well. So this is the story of a man who was in New York living his life as a gay man when he has to come home to Florida because his parents become ill. One has an accident, a slip and fall accident, and becomes, I think, a quadriplegic, or maybe even a paraplegic. And then the father winds up having health issues of his own. But the book starts after they've both passed. And the main character has never left Florida. And he doesn't have many friends. He doesn't have very many outlets for really any sort of interaction with the world, other than he does work, and he does travel for work, and he does have some friendships that are very, very complicated in nature. This book was very it was very sad. It was very, very sad, but it is like a beautifully written sort of discussion of loneliness and finding self and sort of just giving up on what your life is going to be when you don't really know where you want to go or what you want to do. There's a beautiful friendship in this book between the main character and a fellow gay man that he met at some sort of pickup point. They never sort of had that relationship, but their friendship is like a cornerstone for both of them, but only to a point. They'll only allow each other so far in to each other's lives. There's like this barrier. So it's this really interesting sort of introspective look at friendship and the complications of that. I really loved it. I thought it was really, it was sad and depressing at times. And I don't know that I would say it's a feel-good book, but it's beautifully written. The character is really nuanced. And it just really made me think about a lot of things, if I'm being honest. I think if you're a fan of like Garth Greenwell, sort of that dense type of writing style, Virginia Woolf, that kind of stuff, I think you'll like this book as well. So that's The Kingdom of Sand by Andrew Holleran, out from FSG. I absolutely loved it. A book that I talked about in the tag, the mid-year freakout tag that I read, and really was surprised that I loved it as much as I did, was The Change by Kirsten Miller, and this is out from Morrow, W.M. Morrow, and this is the story of 3 women. They're probably all in their 50s, and they've all come into a set of powers. So one woman can talk to the dead. One woman becomes sort of like this herbal, witchy woman. She's fantastic. One of my favorite characters that I've read about in a long time. And another woman who runs a gym and gets like sort of like this super strength sort of thing. Their friendship is really starts centered around a young girl's body that they find together. And the police are sort of just they're washing it away. They have already in their head, she was a prostitute, she died of a drug overdose, and that's it. But the women don't believe that. They know other things. So they start to investigate. And that investigation leads them to the door of this very wealthy, gated community that sort of houses all of the upper elite of their community. And everything that they do to investigate that. There's so much more to this book than just that. This book looks into the patriarchy. It looks into men and women in the workplace. It looks at sort of the importance of female friendships to get through difficult situations. Family, and it's funny, and it's thrilling, and it's page-turning, and it just pops a punch. And it's a fun thriller too. Like if you just want to read it for the mystery, absolutely you could do that. But there's so much more to it. It's an excellent book. I recommend you read it. Fun summer read if you want to read it by the pool. I flew through it. I thought it was really, really good. So that's The Change by Kirsten Miller, out from W.M. Morrow, and you can get your hands on it right now. Okay? So I decided that I needed to change things up. I was in Oregon. I was like, okay, you've brought a lot of books, Russell, that are a little sad and a little down, and that's your thing. You get it. But what can we go by and just read something that will make our heart happy? And so I picked up the YA gay novel, A Little Bit of Country by Brian D. Kennedy, and it is adorable. It is adorable. So we have two main characters. One is a young boy who, more than anything, I believe he lives in Illinois. He is infatuated by this country singer, Wanda. I don't know if I can remember Wanda's full name. Hold on, if it helps here. Wanda Jean Stubbs. And he wants to be like the first really out queer gay country star. And he gets a job performing in a musical act there at Wanda World, a little Dolly-esque, Dollywood, is that what it's called? And he gets there and he's living with his aunt, who's very supportive, and her boyfriend, who is not living there, but he is a major force at Wanda Land. And he meets another young boy who is there, who's not out to his family. His mother has been very, very sick, and they're very, very religious. They're more in the South, so he's not out. They meet each other, and sort of that whole relationship takes off. And it is charming and adorable and beautiful, set to a country twang. I absolutely loved it. I was totally what I needed at that moment. So A Little Bit of Country by Brian D. Kennedy. This is out from, I always get it wrong, Balzer and Bray. I always want to switch those two words together, but absolutely enjoyed it if you're looking for little gay romance for the rest of your summer. A book that that I was super excited to read was the second book in Namina Forna's series. What is she calling this series? The Gilded Ones #2. So the first book was called The Gilded Ones, which I've reviewed on my channel and I absolutely loved. This one is called The Merciless Ones. And what did she do? She flipped the entire script on the story, and I loved it. So in this world, if you remember, our main character was originally to be put to death because she tested as a demon. And in book one, she's swept away and turned into a warrior, and she winds up finding out a whole bunch of stuff about the world in which she lives in, which is a patriarchal society, very religious. Women are really held down, and you find out why as the book goes on. And so she, at the end of that book, does something. I'm not going to spoil it. And then this book, more stuff happens. I don't read many series, but I have not read a series that I was like, what is she doing? She's tearing everything apart. Oh my gosh, it's gotten so much more complicated and amazing and fantastic. And the main character, Dika, gets so... I thought she was so good in the first book, and now she's even more complicated and interesting and has to make life choices. I will say, and it's sort of this angsty teen thing that goes on. For me, as a man in my mid-40s, sometimes I'm like, ugh, but it totally works. And it's just so much fun. I need book 3 right now. I need to know what Namina Forna is going to do to wrap this up. So, absolutely loved it. Great series. This is The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, out from Delacorte Press. Yeah, I went actually and bought the hard copy. I was reading the Arc that was sent to me by Delacorte. So thank you very much, Delacorte. But it was different than the audio that was in my ears as I was reading. So I of course went right to the bookstore and bought the finished copy. I wanted it anyway. So the next book that I read, I only have 2 left, which this is a pretty good stack, pretty eclectic, is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lowe. This is out from Dutton, and this won the National Book Award for Young Adult Fiction a few years ago now. So this takes place in the mid 1950s in America. Our main character is a Chinese American little girl who goes to school, and she's just like a little bit introverted. That's the word I'm looking for. And we find out very quickly that she's queer. She has this fascination with this woman, this male impersonator that she finds in a magazine who performs at the Telegraph Club. And one day at school, it falls out of paper and she meets a girl, and the girl says, "Oh, I've been there," and they can sort of start to open up to each other. And there's a lovely little lesbian romance. It's absolutely adorable. Unfortunately, it's set back against the backdrop of the Red Scare. It's set across the backdrop of all the times that the police... Oh, it's set in San Francisco. So, like, the police are coming in and raiding gay clubs and organizations and stuff like that. So there's, like, this heavy backdrop and this very lovely budding lesbian romance. I will say that I think that the Red Scare part, or the communist part of it, maybe could have been developed a little bit more. It was there, but it didn't really 100% sort of connect to the story for me. But that is such a tiny little nitpick, because overall it works. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I can totally see why it won the National Book Award. The characters are great. There's like teenage drama between friends. There is all this stuff. But at the heart of it, it's about a girl finding out who she is, finding someone to love, and that first romance, that first kiss, all of that wonderfulness that we all know and love. So that's Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lowe, and this is out from Dutton. Last but not least, and the reason it's on the bottom of this stack is because for the life of me, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this book, because it's not what I expected. It was all over the place, but it was fantastic. And that's Devil House by John Darnielle. Darnielle, is that how you say that? And this is out from MCD. And so the premise of this book is that our main character is a true crime writer. He has some notoriety for a true crime book he wrote about a woman who killed 2 boys who broke into her home. Something called The White Witch, I believe. But he has been sort of propositioned with this idea of a house in Milpitas, which is right up the street from me. Like literally I could get to Milpitas in 20 minutes. Where a double murder occurred some time ago. And the building in which that happened has now been turned into a home and is for sale. So his like agent or his publisher says you should buy the house and research that and turn that into your new book. That is the premise. That is how this book starts. He buys the house, he moves in, he's researching this book. Then the book flips to us reading sort of his first book about the White Witch, which is told, I believe, in the second person, which is super duper creepy. And then we jump back and we're actually in the minds of the people who are at the heart of the story of that double murder that sort of inspired this whole thing. And he's telling that story, okay? And then it goes elsewhere. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because I really think that you should read it. It is challenging. It is at times difficult. At times I don't know why everything goes together. But it is sort of this introspective book set against the backdrop of a murder mystery, true crime, but also it's really about one man's journey to find self and what winds up happening living inside this house where this murder occurred. It is crazy. So I just don't know how to say anything other than I think you should read it. I really do. And if you want more, sort of eloquent and concise, Daryl over on Instagram, this is his favorite read of the year so far, I believe. Look for his review. He is so much more, he's just so much better at speaking about it than I am. But it's like one of those books that when I stopped it, I texted my friend and I'm like, what did I just read? Maybe I need to read the whole thing again. So that's Devil House by John Darnielle, and this is out from MCD at FSG. So that's a pretty good stack of books. Sorry, it's coming to you all a little bit late. A little bit of literature all over the place, from YA to fantasy to thrillers to all of that. Let me see if I can hold it up. There you go, to a little bit of everything. I had a really great reading month, and I hope that one or all of these books winds up on your TBR. As always, if you are a turned subscriber, I could not do this without you. Thank you so very, very much. If you are new to my channel, I hope you subscribe, hit the bell, all those things that make my this worth it. Really, it makes this worth it. It really does. So as always, I encourage you to read globally, shop locally, and until next time, I wish you happy reading. Bye, everyone.